Hello and welcome to City at a Glance. I'm Kelly DiMartino. As you know, City at a Glance is a program where we talk about some of the projects and partnerships that we have going on here at the City of Fort Collins. Today we're going to be talking about an exciting event coming up called the Net Zero Cities Conference. As always, we're pleased to have joining us City Manager Darren Atterbury. Darren, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Kelly.
Today we have some guests who are going to shed some light on this event for us. First is Sandy Powell with Northern Colorado Business Report. Sandy, welcome.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bruce Hendy, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer for the City of Fort Collins. Bruce, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And Dr. Gary Cayley, who is with Colorado State University, the School of Mechanical Engineering. Dr. Cayley, thanks for being here.
Okay.
So, Darren, this is an event that's going to be coming up in mid-October, and it really showcases Fort Collins and the region. Can you talk just a little bit about why you think this is such an important thing for the City of Fort Collins?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kelly. This is a great topic, and I want to start by recognizing our Chief Sustainability Officer, Bruce Hendy, and your vision. And hopefully we'll have a great discussion here. But the vision and the collaboration that's involved in this, really this event, has been fantastic. Not only the event that's coming up, but the conversation after the event that and the results. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing. It's a direct fit with where Fort Collins has been going for a long time. So this event that we're going to be talking about fits with the vision of our elected leadership. What we think, we talk about the DNA of this community, and we also talk about world class. And as a city organization, our vision of being passionate about creating a vibrant world class community, I think that this fits in just brilliantly with that vision. And then the other thing that I want to stress is that what's great about this conversation is that it demonstrates public-private partnerships. It takes CSU's commitment. We've had an incredible relationship with Colorado State. So we have Northern Colorado Business Report, Sandy, here as well. So this public-private partnership is really special. So I'll stop talking. I'm excited about the conversation. I'm excited about what's going to happen in mid-October, and then really more excited about what we do with all this. So thanks.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Bruce, I'm going to ask you to kick things off by just giving us that quick snapshot of what we're talking about. What's this whole thing about?
Sure. Thanks, Kelly. You know, it's actually a really exciting conference, and I think we've all gotten excited about it as we've worked on it, and important to not only our community and to the region, but to the planet as well. As part of my direction as sustainability officer for the city, one of the challenges I have is to help implement some of the policies that City Council has put in place. And one of those is our Climate Action Plan, which recognizes the importance of communities taking action on climate. Our current Climate Action Plan, for example, has a policy that we will achieve an 80% reduction in carbon by the year 2050, which, by the way, many scientists have said is a really critical date for the planet to get to that level in order to be able to sustain itself. So in a very real sense, this has importance. To that end, there's a couple of major aspects to it that I think the conference really has formed around. And it's the kind of classic three-legged stool, which has energy, and which is a major carbon source, transportation, which is an equally big carbon source, and the third one is a kind of an integrative aspect, which is not only the work we do, but looking out to future generations, and are we adequately preparing the next generations of students to be able to move into this new economy and this new world and be able to carry forward the work that we've started. And that's a program that Gary will talk more about that's really related to STEM, which is education and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which, by the way, is being implemented in schools in Northern Colorado and has very important implications. So if we look at those three, the conference is really kind of bounded by those three aspects. And that kind of forms the fundamental basis of what Net Zero Cities is. It's a systems approach to looking at the future and deciding what are those best systems that we can put in place to help us move forward with those ideas?
And as we've been developing this, we decided to look at other places where we can learn from, correct? So this is not going to be only focused on us sort of locally and regionally, but we're bringing in, as I understand, some really fascinating international expertise in this area as well. So let's talk a little bit about who's going to be at the conference and give people more of a taste of what they can experience while they're there.
Well, I'll start with that and then let Gary and Sandy fill in a little bit. I'll just kind of give the first couple ones. The exciting part about this, honestly, is that we have attracted more people than we expected. We have people from 4 different continents that'll be coming to speak. And part of the work on transportation, Gary's really kind of picked that one up and run with it. But we have Jørgen Abildgaard, and I don't know if I pronounced that quite right.
I think you're close.
Who's the executive climate director for Copenhagen, Denmark, one of the leading cities in the world in sustainability, who will be coming here to speak. We also have a Professor Toji from Tohoku University in Japan, who will be coming here to talk about Japan's change in direction since the Fukushima tsunami. And I think he will be coming here to talk about Japan's new direction in alternative energy and what their future is going to be. Gary, you've been talking with others. Maybe you could
No, we're going
back
to, Dr. Roberto Godoy from Brazil will be here, and he'll talk about the policies and plan of implementation that Brazil did so they could go to an ethanol-based transportation fuel. And it's both the science, which involved genetic modification of sugarcane, as well as infrastructure and policy around making that happen. It took 30 years to do it, so it survived what I'll call the churn of election. So they had this consistency policy that moved through this. So now they're, from a transportation perspective, they are self-sufficient.
Great.
Another interesting speaker that'll be here is really a fascinating project that's happening in Austin, Texas, which Darren and I had the opportunity to go down and visit last fall, which is called Pecan Street. So Pecan Street's this very interesting project where Austin has taken 100 homes and gotten volunteers in 100 homes to volunteer to be guinea pigs for new alternative energy strategies and new techniques in consumer electronics. So Bert Haskell, who's the technical director of that project, will be here to talk about, at that level, he'll be discussing consumer electronics in the consumer world. On the more utility scale, we have Steve Katnack, who's our energy director at the utility, who will be speaking on Fort Zed and some of the larger, more utility scale ones. So the kind of intriguing part about their particular talk will be this utility to consumer approach to how we can begin to systematize the future and trying to achieve climate action.
So there's really some big concepts that are going to be discussed here. It sounds like hopefully get people thinking a little bit. Who are you hoping is going to attend? Who's the invited audience?
Well, Kelly, of course, it would be the business community, political leaders, educators, folks who are interested in sustainability. So we'll see community members and did I mention educators? So we're real excited about how this will attract a number of people. We're expecting somewhere between 500 and 600 attendees. And again, this is over the 2 days of the event. So.
And I don't think we've shared the basic information yet, so maybe we can just real quickly jump in here with the details of when and where the conference is, and then we'll come back to some of the bigger picture information.
Well, it's October 16th and 17th at the Hilton here in Fort Collins. And the days will start, check-in is starting about 7. We'll serve breakfast around 7:30, and then the sessions will start at 8. And on both days, we should probably be over between 5 and 5:30. There are luncheon speakers, and at the end of each day, we'll have table discussions. And so that, Darren, is where we're going to be helping move the conference forward, because this is not just a one-year event. Our plan is to take it forward and start dialogue and conversation. So that's kind of an overview of the world.
So let me ask a question. If for the three of you, if you were to sort of wave your magic wand and say, this is what, when we leave this conference, this is what I hope for Northern Colorado, and this is Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, or what's the big, for each of you, it'd be great to hear, what do you hope for? If everything is just optimal, what would you like to see as an outcome of this conversation?
I have to kind of start the answer to that recognizing and thanking the City of Loveland for being a co-sponsor on this event together with Fort Collins, and recognize the Northern Colorado Business Report's role, as well as also a major sponsor, Bohemian Foundation. The reason I say that is because as I look at a takeaway, what's important, what can we use from this? I think a very important part of this is really going to evolve partially as the work of CSU's Center for Public Deliberation. We have Martin Carcassen from the center who is going to be bringing his students in and kind of facilitating this workshop dialogue. So this isn't a traditional conference in the normal sense of just come sit and listen. This is come sit and interact. And so what we're really hoping is that when we have people from different places around the world and from our region and our cities, that they will sit and they will learn, and our students will begin to learn the importance of STEM at the same time. So takeaway for me would be a greater regional collaboration by Loveland and Fort Collins in beginning to move the dialogue forward on net zero future, helping us to further our goals as a community in achieving our climate action plan.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Gary?
Well, we need a plan, and then we need to work the plan. So our hope is to get to a point where we can actually put together a plan, and this is going to be a team sport. The city can't do it by itself, industry can't do it by itself. We have to do it. We need buy-in from all these components on this plan, and then I think we can advance the plan. The other major thing that has to happen is we have to develop industry support as well as city support and university support, high schools and secondary school support for mentorship of our youth. We have to increase the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics content of both our curriculums and the number of students involved in it if we're going to go in that direction. So that's where I'm hoping
Yeah,
to go.
that's
A
great.
mentorship program that involves our local industries and potentially industries that are outside of that reaches not only those going to college, but those seeking other type of technical careers, whether it be technicians or otherwise. And then how do we put the plan together that has buy-in from everyone?
Right. Great. Sandy, how about you?
I think for the Northern Colorado Business Report, what we hope for is collaboration. I really do have to echo both what Gary and Bruce have said, but to bring people to the table to continue the dialogue and start dialogue and start conversation. I think the other thing, and this may be perhaps, well, I think I can speak for the business report, is to find ways to lessen our dependence on foreign oil and find other ways of doing things when we come down to energy and transportation. I mean, we have this amazing discovery over in Weld County with natural gas, and that it will be part of the conversation too.
We're talking about the Net Zero Cities Conference that's coming up, and really about some big picture concepts we're going to be talking about related to the future of energy, transportation, and also education specific to science and technology, what people can expect, and some of the interesting conversations that are going to go on. So, Gary, can you share a little bit more from that education perspective, what people can
One of the
can
things
find?
we're very interested in is encouraging students and educators to become more involved in STEM type applications. But in order to do that, we need industry involvement also, as well as, of course, the universities and so forth. So one of the guests we're going to have speak is Dr. Prasad Ram, who's the CEO of Guru Learning. And that's an online, interactive, collaborative type learning system that's actually a spin-off from Google. So he'll be here showing us the latest thing. It's received significant support by many not-for-profit foundations and the Office of Naval Research. So,
I think another speaker, a keynote, and a very important one for us locally, is Tom Gendron, the CEO of Woodward, who has really been looking at the large-scale systems kind of approach to energy in particular, will be one of our keynote speakers, and I'm really excited to have him be a part of this. Also, we'll have former Governor Ritter, who is the head of the Center for the New Energy Economy at Colorado State University, will be one of our keynotes as well. And he will really be talking about the policy side of energy and where the country's going. And he truly brings a really great national and international perspective because he's traveling extensively now on the part of the university. So we're really thrilled to have him be a part of this as well.
Great. So I just have to ask, it's seems like a really great mix of, again, perspectives and international. How does Fort Collins end up attracting this sort of speaker to come present in our community? And, kind of how did it all come together?
Well, it really is truly a partnership, I think, in the way that it came together. And it was NCBR who originally came to the city and asked if we'd be interested in being a part of the next Green Summit. And we said, well, that's been around for a while. Let's see if we can reinvent it into something that's truly going to be meaningful and much more. And because I think Northern Colorado has gotten to the point where we all know compact fluorescence now, but what we don't know is some of the more advanced strategies. And so we were thinking, let's take the next generation of thinking now and let's kind of boost it up a little bit. That was the beginning, I think, of the thinking of it. And then as we began talking about that, Fort Collins and Fort Zed in particular have really kind of enjoyed an international reputation. And one of our city councilors, Wade Troxel, happened to be going to Copenhagen for a Clean Tech Network meeting, and he had an opportunity to come back and report on that. So we began that discussion and then started talking with Gary and some folks in Brazil that were doing some really leading edge work. And the interesting thing, I think, that kind of sets the fundamental underpinning of why we've done what we've done is not only are we trying to figure out the system side of it, but we started looking back and realizing that during the oil embargo of 1974, there was a huge problem with energy. And we could not get fuel, and there were certain countries that discovered that they were almost entirely dependent on fossil fuels for their existence. Denmark being one of those, Brazil being another one, and Japan importing all of their fuel. And those countries, way back when, started kind of saying this is a future for us. So that began to inform our thinking and help us to kind of decide who should become a part of the discussion. Do you agree with that, Gary?
I would.
Yeah.
And, energy independence drives national policy. If you're dependent on others for your energy, your national policy will reflect that. And one of our hopes is to look at least regionally, as to start, is how do we become sufficient upon our own resources? In Brazil, it's sugarcane. Denmark, it's wind. You're not going to do sugarcane in Denmark. So you have to find what works for you where you are regionally.
So I have a maybe different thought. This conversation is going to go on somewhere. So why not in Fort Collins in Northern Colorado? We've talked about thinking big and not thinking small. So to your question, how did it happen? I think it takes people thinking big, saying, well, it's going to happen somewhere. Why not here? Why not utilize the resources in our university? Why not utilize the grand vision? And I don't mean grand, out of control, wild thinking. I mean a very informed, thoughtful vision. And if you're a community who is deeply, deeply committed to learning and then sharing, it's perfect. It's a perfect fit. So that's kind of how I think it takes some big thinkers. It takes a vision. It takes taking risk. It involves taking risk. I know when Bruce was, one of the only people in town that was thinking about this vision, I remember asking a lot of hard questions. I was thinking small. He was thinking big. And just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And the quintessential example of persistence and stick-to-itiveness, and here we are. And so again, I think the conversation's going to happen. So why not here?
you started the discussion with world class, and I think that's kind of what we're taking that seriously as a community, and I think we're trying to get there. Colorado State University is also playing heavily in that role on a day-to-day basis. There's so much great work going on there, and I think we can't even begin to think anymore of having a separation between city and university. I think that partnership has grown significantly over the last 5 to 10 years, and I think it's really starting to show some benefits.
And then we talk about the entrepreneurial spirit of our business community, and so you add that into the mix, and it really does form just kind of this perfect environment to have this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
You know, and I really think about that's the reason why I asked the question or made the comment at the beginning and asked the question midway through. What's this thing look like when we all leave? How do you learn and share and then operationalize and build on that? And you talked about you know, this might not be the first and only year. I mean, the vision is to continue and to grow that, and so again, for me, part of it is how do we have high school principals and junior high teachers and leaders in industry, as you mentioned, and given the okay to think big and think about how does this translate to what I do on a daily basis, and how do I motivate and advocate and encourage. And so, you know, I think that I think as we're talking about this conference too, building in a very deliberate step where you challenge people to think about, so what's next? Because oftentimes we'll go out of town to a great conference and you just get goosebumps and you know you're learning a ton, and then we come back to the
real
grind.
world.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that we try and get people to begin to translate before they head back to the airport or down I-25 or something. And I'm sure you're thinking about that, but because I do want. You know, I have a particular high school teacher I want to be here and to be sitting next to, and having him just make eye contact. Wow, this is the best use of my time. This is where I need to be focusing my time over the next academic year. I don't mean you know nothing else, but I mean as they're trying to inspire younger people to be our future in science and technology and the areas that you've talked about.
Well, Darren, get us your name and we'll send him an invitation, him or her.
I always, on these shows, I always talk about my next door neighbor. How do you translate this to my next door neighbor? And how does he say, that's a great discussion. That's something that I want to tell people about, or that's something that when we're we stopped our lawnmowers and we're talking about the future of this community, because that stuff does happen. That's how communities change. I fundamentally believe that.
You know, it kind of, I do agree with that. I think it takes a lot of regular communication and constantly saying the story. And to that end, one thing I'd be remiss in not highlighting is that on the night of the 16th, the City of Fort Collins will be hosting a public free presentation that'll be open to the public, and it'll have Professor Toji, who will be speaking at the Lincoln Center. They have a new name for it. It's not the Mini Theater anymore, but Magnolia Theater. That'll be open to the first 220 people on a first-come, first-served basis. And he'll be telling that story in a less technical way that's more general in nature. And I think it'll be a very fascinating presentation that I would encourage
my next door neighbor
to. I think that is your next door neighbor.
Sorry. We want your next door neighbor to be
For
there.
the record, that would have been push mowers.
Right, there we go. All right, well, we are nearing the end of our time, so I want to take just a quick minute again and reiterate that this is open to the public, correct? So anyone who wants to register can do so by going to the website, which is netzeroCities.net. And as we wrap up, I just want to ask each of you to kind of share your closing thoughts and, again, one final takeaway you'd like our audience to have about what they can expect.
Well, to be successful, you have to have a plan. And then you have to work the plan. And I guess what I'm sort of saying here is we have an opportunity to build our plan with buy-in from both the public sector, the private sector, and let's put something together and really challenge it and move it forward.
All right. Thank you for being here, Gary. Bruce?
I'm with Gary too. I think one of the important parts of this is not just to come, feel good, and then leave and go back to your daily grind. The important part of this is to be inspired and let that begin to filter into your day-to-day activities and take that back and take action. And so I think we're really completely aligned on the hope for the outcome of this, and to that degree, we are formatting it as a workshop. So I would really like to just encourage people to come and be a part of it. I think it's going to be a fascinating experience with it's rare that we get people from 4 continents to come to Little Fort Collins and speak. This is a great opportunity, and I'd love to see people there.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks for your work. Sandy?
Well, Kelly, I certainly want to thank the City of Fort Collins and CSU Ventures, Bohemian, City of Loveland for helping us sponsor the event and put it together. There's been a lot of conversations and meetings. We've been meeting weekly for a number of months. We're very, very excited about the event. And again, I have to echo Gary and Bruce that, it's about collaboration, it's about education, it's about coming together and looking towards the future. So I certainly encourage everyone to go to the website and certainly register and ask for more information if they need it.
All right,
so thank you.
Thanks for being here, Sandy. Darren, quick closing comments?
Yeah, thanks for being here, you guys, and thanks for the work that you're doing. I love this. As tickets are limited, make sure our future isn't. I love that. I think that that's inspiring, and there's also a responsibility embedded in that. So I appreciate the partnership. I'm thankful that our community lets us think big, and is supportive of having the conversation here versus anywhere else. So I'm really looking forward to it. I again will say that I think the challenge is trying to figure out how to advocate and operationalize as we leave, and making sure that that's otherwise, we have a good session and we learn and we meet good people and then we go on. But if we want to if we want to make sure our future isn't limited, then there's a two-way relationship. In other words, we have a responsibility to follow up back when we head back to our homes or in this organization or in our neighborhoods, whatever. So I really appreciate, again, I've said it, Bruce, 3 times already. I appreciate your leadership, and the support that the two of you have shown is really greatly appreciated. So thanks for the topic, Kelly. I think this is very worthwhile.
All right, thanks, Darren. And with that concludes this edition of City at a Glance. We encourage you to go to netzerocities.net for more information or to register for this conversation about our future. Thanks for joining us.